Welcome to the Nutrition Collaborative podcast, where we cut through the noise, bust the myths, and bring you nothing but truth about health, fitness, and everything in between. I'm Alec Moore, dietitian, and each week we'll dive into what really works when it comes to achieving lasting health and fitness. No gimmicks, no BS, just real talk, real success stories, and a holistic approach to living your healthiest life. Whether you're here for practical tips, inspiration from real client journeys, or just to find out what's actually worth your time, this is the podcast for you. Let's break it down, get empowered, and focus on what truly matters for your health. Have you ever had an array of symptoms that you couldn't quite pinpoint and understand why they're happening in the first place? I've got the resolution for you. Today's episode is all about symptom tracking and symptom trackers. This is one of the most important tools that you can use on your health journey. If you're experiencing complications, health concerns, understand those complexities on a deeper level, recognize patterns, why something is happening, or what is causing what, when is happening, or what is happening when, etc. This is going to bridge the gap for you on having certain symptoms and things that you're experiencing and a strategic, proper intervention and resolution. It wasn't until I started to use symptom trackers that I've really started to fully understand these complex health cases and journeys. Because not everybody here is trying to lose weight. Not everybody here is trying to gain muscle. A lot of people with their health journey, they're battling some sort of maybe gut issue or hormone imbalance or menstrual cycle irregularities or extreme digestive concerns or autoimmune diseases and developments. And the list goes on. But oftentimes they experience or they have these symptoms that they just don't know why they're happening, or they just can't piece things together in this big complex puzzle of their specific health, their individual health. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and talk about what a symptom tracker basically consists of. Like, what does it look like? Well, it's going to be in a spreadsheet, and it's just going to be columns in a spreadsheet. You have your date, you have your symptom or symptoms plural, you have severity of symptom on like a scale of 1 to 10, you have frequency or some sort of way to track if it's repetitive, and the duration of which it lasted, and maybe some food items that you had that day as well before the symptoms developed. Not to put fear into what you're eating or be fearful of what you're eating or be super hyper critical of what you're eating or any of those things, but just to understand that maybe it is coming from the food. However, I'd like to add that it's the strong majority of the time it's not from food. Food could potentially exacerbate an issue, but the food is usually not the root cause unless you have some sort of chronic disease such as like IBD, Crohn's disease, for example, or ulcerative colitis, or maybe you have autoimmune, maybe you have Hashimoto's, and certain foods directly correlate with that. Most of the time, it's not going to be that way. The root cause is typically not going to be some food sensitivity thing or because you're eating a certain food at a certain time or anything. However, it can give you good ability to gain some pattern recognition with that in the mix. It's just good data to have, but you don't want to just point fingers at the food, because it's usually not the food or the supplement that's just making everything fail. It's usually either a behavioral thing or an internal functional thing. So we have symptom or symptoms, severity, frequency, duration, food last consumed or food recently consumed, and then maybe another column on either like notes or maybe here's what made it feel better, if anything, etc. That's it. It's super simple. So there's that type of symptom tracking, and then there's also a symptom, I like a symptom ranking, and you can basically to measure, to make your data a little bit more measurable over time, you can have the symptom tracker and then the ranker. And the ranker could be maybe a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being feels incredible, feels great, and you can list in a line like, okay, constipation, bloat, gas, hair loss, irritability, mood swings, dry skin, brittle nails, hair loss. I may have already said that. You name it. You can list all the symptoms, and then you can measure them in this column. So symptoms here in the rows, and then the columns up and down can be the numbers of which you rank it. So and then the weeks go by. So, week 1, I'm a 1 out of 10 on everything. It's awful. Or if it's the flip, 10 out of 10 is really bad. Okay, it's all 10s. We need to get that down. We want a lower number. The next week you score it. The next week you score it. So it just gives you that measurable data and a direction to move forward with these complex health cases. So symptom tracking and symptom ranking. So you can just understand your symptoms better. You can piece things together better. It makes more sense in your mind. It's almost like journaling, right? You put things to paper because pen to paper and get it out of your brain, because you're going to go stir crazy if you just keep it up there. It's the same thing with symptoms. If you don't know when they're happening, or what's provoking them, or what's making them more severe, or what helps them, or their duration, or if you have no pattern recognition, if you have no understanding of when and why and how, then you're not going to be able to treat it. You're not going to be able to fix it, and you're just going to go crazy in the process. And then the coolest part of this is when you go to see a specialist. If it gets to that point, when you go to see a doctor, you have that data. You don't have to make things up in your head, or I don't know if you've ever been, and I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole here, but I don't know if you've ever been to a specialist or a doctor and you tell them all your symptoms and they say, it's just this, take this, or it's just this, and they minimize your symptoms, or they think you're crazy and they think you're either over-reporting or it's not as severe as you make it out to be. If you have that data written down, dates, timelines, patterns, frequency, duration, severity, symptoms listed, if you have all that data and you just put it in their face, they're going to give you a much better treatment plan. They're going to actually want to work with you on it because they can see, they trust you that, they're not just like making these symptoms up to get some sort of medication. They're not just, they're not crazy psychologically, because a lot of these symptoms are common among many health concerns or conditions. So just because you have bloating does not mean you have, I've got this one digestive issue. I mean, that could mean a million different things. And so if you have that data and those patterns and you have all of that organized in a digestible way for that practitioner, you're going to get so much more out of that session or that appointment and that treatment plan. So that's another huge benefit of it, not only for yourself, but for your doctors, your coaches, dietitians, psychologists, therapists. I mean, you name it. It's going to help whatever that practitioner is doing for you and wanting to understand better. So with the symptom tracker, you could also kind of piece in somehow like sleep tracking, digestive tracking, like bowel schedule, stuff like that. It really just depends on the type of symptoms and like the type of potential health concerns that you're experiencing, to, depending on if you want to track those other things. Like for a male, we're not going to track, menstrual cycle, so for females, we would obviously. Not only does it do all of those things, but symptom tracking also empowers the client or the patient too, because they start to understand themselves a little bit better. They maybe start to think that, okay, I'm not crazy. This is actually happening, and we're getting to the root of it. We're not just like, it's not just up in the air. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel with that complex health case, knowing the data, understanding there are trends here. You can become more in control of it and start to actually be in charge of your complex health case. And you can get quicker results that way too, of course. So it's great for pattern recognition. It's great for progress tracking, of course. It empowers the client or the patient as they begin to learn more about their own. It also is a great communication tool because it gives us, within like our check-in process, it gives us something to go off of, and it gives us something to be directional with and intentional with. So it enables us to have that touch point, not only just of that verbal check-in, but also the data of all the internal health things and symptoms along the way. That way you have, because again, we're not just talking to people who are looking to lose fat. We're not just talking to people looking to gain muscle here. We're talking about complex health cases too. And communication is has to be top notch for these complex health cases to be solved or resolved or improved or led down the path of success and symptom reduction and ultimately, hopefully, elimination. So it just gives you that touch point to be able to make adjustments and make them clear to the individual on why this is doing that or that is doing this and why we're doing this or that. And so it was not until I started using these trackers until I started to be able to help people with more and more complex cases, because I just understand them on a different level versus, especially when you are a coach and you have an array of clients, you have a list of clients. It's important to not just hear these things and hear that they're doing this and hear that they're doing that. That's going to go in one ear and out the other, because then you're going to go talk to your next patient or your next client, right? So having that in the background, always being tracked and monitored and then reassessed weekly within our check-in process, that's the best way to go about it, and to not let things slip through the cracks on these complex cases. Now, you don't need to track every little thing. Like, you don't have to track that, okay, after that eggs and potato breakfast I had, my left ear started itching. That's probably not something that you need to track, right? It's not significant enough to track. It's not part of the process, right? That just happened. That may have been a bad example, but hopefully it paints the picture of, like, you don't need to be super hyper obsessive or hypercritical of every little thing that you experience or feel. Raising awareness is one thing, but looking for symptoms, trying to add to them and make them worse than they are or something like that, that's where we run into issues of just misunderstanding the case entirely. Fun fact, if you're still listening, I actually have something for you. I have a symptom tracker spreadsheet template I could send you. I have a symptom ranking tracker type of thing that I explained that I could send you as well. So I could send you it completely for free, just for you to see what a symptom tracker looks like. And if you are either currently or ever in the future needing to navigate these things or understand them on a deeper level, that way you have it. So reach out to me. I mean, you could email me, you could hit me up on Instagram, Alec the Dietitian. You can email me, alec@mynutritioncollaborative.com. You can reach out to us on our website, nutritioncollab.com, and reach out. I can send you completely for free. That way you have it and can start to understand your own health on a much deeper level. So I think it's really important to not just let these complex health cases just be super complex for years and years and years. So get a symptom tracker, start tracking the symptoms and piecing these things together. Work with a professional on it, have supervision on it. And I can't promise anything, but I guarantee you're going to have a way better understanding of it. You're going to feel better over time. You're going to feel more empowered, and you're going to be able to communicate these things so much better than if they're just in your head, because the proof is in that spreadsheet. So if you're experiencing a lot of health issues currently, and maybe it is lifestyle, maybe it is behavioral, maybe it's not something internally, quote unquote, wrong or impacted. Maybe it's not a chronic disease. Maybe it's not anything super significant or severe, we might say. Maybe it is just a couple lifestyle changes, a couple nutritional changes away. But so you might be, 2 weeks of use of a symptom tracker and find what the heck's going on. Or you might be 12 weeks in and still be confused, but you'll be a heck of a lot further along than if you didn't start tracking in the first place. So today's episode is all about symptom tracking and the importance and value of symptom trackers. That's it for today. I hope this empowers you to gain more knowledge on your journey, gain more understanding of your case, and ultimately, I hope it helps you lead to your desired outcomes and improved outcomes on your complex health journey. Thanks for tuning in.